No one expected the janitor's kid to walk through the CEO's doors like that. Least of all the CEO himself, who believed chess, like success, belonged to a certain class and certainly a certain color. Devin stood just inside the glass-paneled office, his small frame dwarfed by the steel and marble that screamed power. The air conditioning was cold, the kind that numbed your skin but sharpened your senses. He wore a faded hoodie, sneakers whose soles were more memory than rubber, and eyes that had seen too much to ever be intimidated by a leather chair or a smug grin. "Is this the chess prodigy I've heard about?" asked Charles Whitmore III, CEO of Helix Tech and walking embodiment of inherited privilege. His voice had that polished sneer, like someone trying to sound friendly to a waiter. "Your father speaks highly of you. Says you beat everyone at school." Devin shrugged. "Sometimes." He didn't mention Harvard. Didn't need to. His father, Maurice, had begged him not to. "Let him think you're just a kid who got lucky," Maurice had whispered that morning while mopping the marble lobby floors. "Don't give him a reason to make it ugly. Just play." Devin knew what his father meant. He had grown up on the unspoken rules. Don't speak too well, don't challenge too fast, and never make a white man feel stupid. Whitmore motioned to the chessboard already set up on a sleek glass table near the window. "Care to play a quick round before my lunch meeting? Just a bit of fun." Devin walked over silently and sat. His fingers hovered above the board, instinctively adjusting the white piece she always preferred black, but knew better than to ask. "You can be white," Whitmore offered, smirking. Devin looked up. "That's okay. I'm used to being black." Whitmore froze. For a split second, the mask slipped, but then he laughed, too loud and too long. "Sharp tone. I like that. Let's see if your brain's as sharp." They began to play. The first 10 moves were quiet, clinical, and ordinary. Whitmore leaned back, confident. "So, your dad works here, what's that like? Must be a good influence, cleaning up after real success." Devin didn't answer. He moved his knight. A trap set 3 turns ahead. Whitmore grinned. "Ah, silent type. Thinking man. That's good. This company was built by thinkers, you know. My grandfather founded it in '68. He had a rule. Never trust a man who can't look you in the eye." Devin looked up, straight into his eyes, and said, "That's ironic." Whitmore blinked. The game shifted. Devin sacrificed a bishop to gain tempo. Whitmore barely noticed. He was too busy talking about IPOs and acquisitions, the kind of things that made him feel taller. Devin's face remained blank, but inside he was already 3 moves ahead. He could see it now. A rook trap, a queen slide, a quiet pawn creeping into glory. When Whitmore finally noticed he was in trouble, it was too late. He reached for his queen, stopped, and frowned. "You play." "Well, who taught you?" "My dad." Whitmore laughed again. "The janitor taught you chess." Devin's lips twitched. "No, he taught me how to lose with dignity. Someone else taught me how to win." "Who?" Devin paused, then said quietly, "Harvard." Whitmore blinked again, confused. Devin didn't elaborate. Let the man wonder. 10 moves later, the game was over. Whitmore stared at the board like it had betrayed him. "Wait, is that, mate?" Devin nodded. Whitmore leaned forward. "You beat me." "Looks like it." There was silence, the kind that thickens the air. Then Whitmore smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Well, aren't you full of surprises? How old are you again?" 13. "You've got potential," Whitmore said carefully. "Maybe you could intern here someday. We could put that brain to good use." Devin looked at him, really looked at him. "Thanks, but I'd rather build something of my own." He stood, zipped his hoodie, and turned toward the door. "That was a lucky game," Whitmore called out. "Bet you can't do it twice." Devin stopped without turning. Bet Harvard thought the same thing. He left the office and walked straight into his father's arms downstairs. Maurice had been pacing the whole time. "Well," he asked, gripping his mop like a lifeline. I won. Maurice closed his eyes and exhaled. Proud of you, son. But stay humble. I am, Devin said. But I'm done hiding. Later that night, in their cramped, one-bedroom apartment, Devin opened his laptop and logged into a private chess server. Anonymous username. High-level opponents. One of them messaged, "You play like someone with a grudge." He smiled. You have no idea. Down in a corporate tower uptown, Charles Whitmore stared at the footage from a security camera feed, replayed the game, again and again. Each time, he saw new traps he hadn't even noticed. Each time, the same checkmate. And each time, a quiet realization crept closer. He had been outplayed by the janitor's kid, not because of luck, but because somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten something Devin never had the luxury of forgetting. That brilliance doesn't come dressed in a suit, and respect doesn't come from a title. It's earned, over a board, in silence. And sometimes, the kid you overlook ends up teaching you the biggest lesson of your life. The next morning, the office buzzed with a subtle tension. Nothing official had been said. Of course, corporate spaces like Helix Tech didn't circulate gossip out loud, but whispers traveled faster than emails. Something had shifted. Devin didn't return to the glass office. He didn't need to. By lunchtime, 3 executives had already heard about the janitor's son who checkmated Mr. Whitmore in 12 minutes. 2 of them laughed about it in the break room. One of them didn't laugh at all. Instead, she quietly pulled up security footage and watched it with a stunned expression, replaying each move, each silence, each facial twitch. Her name was Clara, VP of Strategy, Harvard alumna, and one of the very few people at Helix Tech who understood what it meant to play 5 steps ahead. She picked up the phone. By 4 p.m., Devin and his father were asked to come up again, not to the CEO's office this time, but to the 27th floor, the executive conference suite. Maurice looked nervous. Devin, less so. He wore the same hoodie, but his eyes had sharpened further since yesterday, like something inside him had clicked open and refused to shut. Clara greeted them. She was precise, composed, but not cold. She nodded respectfully to Morrisian act rare enough that it startled him. "Mr. Baker," she said to Devin, "would you mind sitting in on a meeting?" Morris's brows furrowed. "Wait, what kind of meeting?" "Nothing formal. Just an internal strategy session. We'd like your perspective." Maurice hesitated. Devin didn't. "Sure," the boy said, walking in. Inside were 5 department heads and 2 board advisors. The room was sleek, modern, clinical. At the center, a long digital table displaying market data, predictive trend charts, and a rolling 3-year roadmap. They expected confusion, maybe awe. What they got was Devin, leaning forward, scanning the screen silently, then pointing. "That part won't work." All heads turned. "Excuse me?" asked a stiff man in a gray blazer. Devin tapped the display. "You're basing your product rollout on a growth curve that assumes continued user adoption in Southeast Asia. But your localization sucks. You're using direct translations from U.S. copy, which don't account for regional nuance or linguistic structure. You'll get traction, but not loyalty. They'll uninstall within a week." Silence. The stiff man opened his mouth and closed it. Clara leaned forward. "How do you know that?" "I read a lot. And my best friend's family runs a noodle shop that doubled their online sales when they switched from Google Translate to native branding. People underestimate language." Clara's eyes sparkled. The room shifted. Someone asked a question, then another. Devin didn't flinch. His mind was a filing cabinet of pattern recognition, social data, and hard-earned intuition. He wasn't just a chess prodigy. He saw systems like he saw boards' flaws, tactics, and inevitable collapse. Outside the conference room, Maurice waited, arms crossed tightly. The receptionist offered him water. He declined. An hour passed. When the doors opened again, Devin stepped out, blinking at the brightness of the hallway like he'd just stepped off a different planet. Maurice stood up. "You good?" Devin nodded. Behind him, Clara called out, "Mr. Baker?" They both turned. "Would you be open to a formal internship this summer? Paid, of course." Morris's face froze. Devin simply said, "I'll think about it." That night at home, their tiny apartment felt heavier than usual. The air buzzed with possibility, but also a quiet dread. Maurice sat at the kitchen table, hands folded. "You need to understand something, son," he said slowly. "These people, they smile with teeth, not with hearts. They'll use your talent, but they don't love it. They don't love you." Devin listened, but his mind drifted, not out of disrespect, but because he already knew that. He knew at the moment Whitmore shook his hand like a dog learning a trick. He knew it when he saw how the boardroom flinched at his voice. "I don't need them to love me," Devin finally said. "I just need them to listen." Maurice looked at his son, the boy he'd raised on secondhand books, midnight chess puzzles, and quiet warnings about the world. And he realized something terrifying. His son was already beyond him. The following week, Devin was back at Helix Tech officially this time. ID badge, intern tag, a photo where he didn't smile. Clara had placed him under her direct supervision. Said it was for mentorship purposes. Whitmore didn't like it. Not that he could say anything. Not after two board members casually referenced the kid who demolished you during cocktail meeting. One had even said it admiringly. The next time Whitmore saw Devin, it was in the elevator. "Settling in okay?" he asked. Devin nodded. "It's interesting." Whitmore smiled thinly. "You know, when I was your age, I spent a summer learning the ropes from my father. Real legacy stuff. Do you think you're building something like that here?" Devin stared at him. "No, I'm building something better." The elevator dinged. Devin stepped off. Whitmore stayed behind. By mid-July, Devin was no longer just the chess kid. He had designed an optimization model for user retention that outperformed the existing predictive algorithm by 11%. Clara presented it during a board meeting. She didn't take credit. She didn't need to. Everyone knew who made it. News trickled outside the company. Tech blogs picked up the story. Teen intern at Helix Tech beats out senior developers with breakthrough model. Another headline read, "From broom closet to boardroom. Janitor's son redefines genius." The part about the broom closet infuriated Devin. "They make it sound like I was cleaning floors," he told his father. "I was solving endgames." Maurice shrugged. "Let them write what they want. You're not here to explain. You're here to survive." But Devin didn't want to just survive. He wanted to change things. One day, Clara handed him a file. "Take a look. Tell me what's missing." It was an internal hiring report. Racial demographics, promotion rates, retention disparities. Devin's eyes narrowed. "Only 2 black analysts in a company of over 800, he muttered, "and none at the senior level." Clara said nothing. He flipped another page. "Wait, this guy David Holt. He interviewed 3 times, tested in the top percentile, and still didn't get hired." "Passed over for someone from Yale," Clara said, "with lower scores." Devin felt his jaw clench. "Do you think Mr. Whitmore had anything to do with that?" Clara raised an eyebrow. "I think. You already know the answer." That night, Devin couldn't sleep. He stared at his ceiling, replaying games in his mind, but not chess games. People games. Systems. Disguised biases wrapped in paper-thin excuses. He knew what he had to do. Not just beat the system. Expose it. And in doing so, rewrite the rules entirely. Devin drafted his plan in silence. He didn't tell Clara, though he suspected she already knew. He didn't mention it to Maurice, either not because he didn't trust him, but because he didn't want to burden him. This wasn't just about a game anymore. It wasn't even about proving he was smarter. It was about justice. 1 month into his internship, Devin had gained full access to Helix Tech's internal network under Clara's supervision, of course. What no one realized was that Devin's mind operated like a sieve for bias. He didn't need anyone to hand him proof of discrimination. He could read it between the lines of hiring metrics, salary brackets, exit interviews, and performance review language. Every system left fingerprints, and Helix Tech's were filthy. By Friday, Devin had compiled a confidential report. 48 pages of data, patterns, and annotated receipts. He titled it simply, Blind Spots, Systemic Bias in Helix Tech Hiring and Culture. The language was precise, the tone calm. Not angry, not accusatory, just facts. At the end of the document, he added a single paragraph. I was invited here because I played a good game of chess. But the real game of one that matters is happening in this building every day, and too many people are losing it before they even make their first move. He printed 3 copies. One he slipped under Clara's door. The second he mailed anonymously to the HR director. The third he slid into a sealed envelope and addressed to Charles Whitmore III. Then he went home. Monday came like a slow brewing storm, the kind that dims the light before a drop of rain falls. Devin entered the building to find the front desk unusually silent. 2 security guards stood near the elevators, their arms folded a little too tightly. On the 27th floor, Clara met him at the entrance. "We need to talk," she said. Devin followed her into her office. She closed the door gently, but her eyes were sharp. "You wrote this?" she asked, holding the report. "Yes." Clara nodded slowly. "You know this could cost you everything." "I know, and you still did it." Devin's voice was calm. "Wouldn't be much of a strategist if I didn't take calculated risks." Clara stared at him for a moment, then smiled not out of amusement, but out of deep respect. "Good, because you may have just blown the roof off the company." She sat down and pulled up her screen. After HR received the report, they ran a silent audit. "Turns out your numbers match theirs exactly. The board has been informed. Whitmore's office called an emergency meeting this morning." Devin blinked. "Emergency?" Clara looked up. "He's furious. He knows it came from you. I didn't sign it. He doesn't care." There was a long pause. "What happens now?" Devin asked. Clara folded her hands. "Now we wait. He'll either double down or implode." The implosion came faster than expected. By Tuesday morning, an internal memo leaked to a tech blog. The memo, signed by an anonymous whistleblower, described a culture of quiet exclusion masked behind polished diversity statements. It mentioned specific incidents, specific names. The blog ran the story with a headline, "Chess Prodigy in turn exposes racism at Helix Tech." By 10 a.m., it was viral. Whitmore went into lockdown. PR team scrambled. A scheduled product announcement was canceled. Stock dipped by 6 points. Employees whispered in elevators. The janitorial staff nodded at Devin differently now, not just with pride, but with a kind of silent thanks. By Wednesday, the board called an emergency session. Devin wasn't invited, but Clara was. She texted him one word afterward, progress. The next day, Devin was summoned. Not to Clara's office. To the very top. Whitmore's floor. Maurice insisted on coming with him, but Devin gently said no. "I need to do this alone, Dad." Maurice hesitated, then placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder. "Then remember who you are, and don't let anyone redefine you." Devin walked into the lion's den. Whitmore sat behind his desk like a man, trying very hard to look unfazed. But his jaw was tight, and his fingers drummed on the armrest with nervous rhythm. He didn't offer Devin a seat. Devin sat anyway. There was a pause. "I trusted you," Whitmore said finally. "No, sir," Devin replied. "You used me." Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "I gave you an opportunity, and I gave you honesty." "That report," he said, voice rising. "You made this company look like a plantation." Devin stared at him. "I didn't make it look that way. I just showed you the mirror. Whitmore stood, hands flat on the desk. You humiliated me. Devin stood, too. No, you did that to yourself when you dismissed people who didn't look like you, speak like you, or come from your world. You thought merit was yours to define. But I'm telling you, merit isn't a suit, or a school, or a skin color. You've got nerve, Whitmore hissed. Devin smiled. You taught me that. For a moment, neither moved. Then Devin turned and walked to the door. You're finished here, Whitmore said coldly. Devin turned back. 2 days later, Whitmore resigned. The company called it a strategic leadership transition, but everyone knew the truth. Board pressure, investor panic, public outrage. He left with a golden parachute, but a tarnished legacy. Clara was named interim CEO. Her first act, launch an independent diversity audit and promote 3 previously overlooked employees of color into senior roles. Her second act, offer Devin a permanent role as junior strategist with full scholarship support through any college of his choice. Devin said he needed time to think. It was late when he returned home. Maurice was sitting on the couch, watching the news in disbelief as a white anchorwoman described his son as a brilliant young visionary shaking up corporate culture. Devin sat beside him. You proud? He asked. Maurice didn't answer at first. Then, quietly, I was always proud, but now I'm also hopeful. They sat in silence. Outside, the city pulsed. Somewhere, a boy like Devin was reading a chess book in a dim-lit room. Somewhere, a father like Maurice was mopping a floor, dreaming quietly of something more. And in that still moment, Devin realized something. This wasn't the end of story. It was the opening move. Summer faded into fall. Helix Tech buzzed with new energy. Where once hallway conversations skirted around race and power, now real discussions were happening in rooms that had long been closed off and in voices that had long been silenced. Devin didn't take the job offer immediately. He still showed up to intern 3 days a week, but only on his terms. He spent the rest of his time speaking at schools, at community centers, even on a local news panel titled Brains Behind the Board, The Power of Potential in Unlikely Places. He didn't like the attention, but he understood the responsibility. After one panel, a little black girl no older than 10 tugged on his sleeve. Are you really a genius? She whispered. Devin knelt and smiled. No, I just didn't let people tell me I wasn't. One day in early October, Clara invited him to a rooftop lunch. They sat at a quiet table overlooking the skyline. She had been officially named CEO 2 weeks earlier. The company had stabilized, the PR nightmare was behind them, and thanks to a new transparent hiring model Devin helped design Helix Tech, had begun rebuilding trust. You started something big, she said, slicing into a grilled peach salad. Bigger than even you realize. Devin sipped his water. It wasn't just me. It was the system. I just uncovered it. She leaned forward. Do you want to keep uncovering? We could use you full-time. Strategy, oversight, ethics. You'd write your own title, and we'd pay for school. Devin looked out across the city. Far in the distance, he could almost see the edge of the neighborhood. He came from the low rooftops, the basketball courts with broken rims, the corner where his dad used to get his only 30-minute break. I want to finish school, he said, but not just for me. I want to teach other kids like me how to see patterns, how to fight without screaming. Clara nodded. You ever going to run for office? Devin laughed. No, I'd rather run a revolution. Quietly, on a gray November afternoon, Devin received an invitation. It was embossed in gold, mailed from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Harvard, an elite invitational chess exhibition featuring prodigies and grandmasters from across the country. The note was short. We've heard about the boy who once beat our best. Care to do it again? Harvard Chess Society. Devin smiled. He placed the envelope on the table, looked at Maurice, and said, Guess I'll need that old bus suitcase again. Maurice chuckled. You're flying this time, son. The Harvard match was held in a grand hall lined with oil paintings and polished oak. It smelled of money and memory. Devin walked in wearing a pressed navy blazer over his signature hoodie. Let them be confused. Let them wonder. Across from him sat a girl named Marianne Waiter'S, junior champion, razor sharp, and already eyeing a full ride to MIT. She smiled. I've studied your game, the one with Whitmore. Devin smiled back. That wasn't my best. The match began. 34 minutes later, it was over. Checkmate. Marianne stood and shook his hand. Well played. Devin nodded. Thank you. You too. Reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. One asked, Devin, how does it feel to defeat another Harvard elite? He didn't hesitate. It doesn't matter who I beat, he said, as long as the next kid watching knows he can sit at this table too. After the exhibition, Devin sat alone on a bench outside Harvard Yard. It was cold, the wind whispering through old bricks and even older trees. Maurice joined him quietly, a steaming coffee in hand. You were great in there, he said. Devin smirked. Was it the chess or the speech? Both, but mostly the calm. You didn't flinch, even when the room looked like it wasn't made for you. Devin looked down. That's because it wasn't. None of this was. But I'm not asking for permission anymore. Maurice placed the coffee between them. That's what your mama used to say. Before the cancer. Said the world doesn't hand you a seat, you build your own damn chair. They sat there for a while. Just breathing. Just being. Then Maurice asked, You going to accept Harvard's offer? Devin looked at him. Maybe. Or maybe I'll build something better. 6 months later, the world would come to know the Baker Institute, a youth-led initiative founded by Devin, funded partly by Helix Tech and Clara Jo, designed to teach systems thinking, strategy, and digital literacy to underserved students of color. Its motto was simple, see the board. Change the game. Devin gave keynote speeches across the country, but he never lost his edge. He still played chess, always anonymously, always online. One day, during a virtual tournament, an opponent messaged him, You play like someone who's been underestimated. Devin grinned. You have no idea, he typed. Years later, during a television interview on 60 Minutes, the host would ask, Devin, what was the turning point? The moment everything changed. Devin thought long and hard. He could have said it was the moment he beat Harvard at 10, or the moment he checkmated a CEO in a glass tower. But instead, he said, the moment I realized that intelligence means nothing if you're not using it to lift others. The game isn't just about winning. It's about making sure more people get to play. The host paused. And what would you say to young kids watching this? Especially kids who feel like the world doesn't see them. Devin leaned in, eyes burning with quiet fire. I see you. Now go prove them wrong. Back in his office, framed on the wall, hung a photo of that first game with Whitmore in the glass tower on that strange, pivotal day. The caption read, Never underestimate the janitor's son. And next to it, on the bookshelf, sat a chess Paisea black pawn, worn and cracked. Because Devin knew, that's how every game begins. But it's not how it ends. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.